Hello, everyone. This is Jeffrey Lim here. I hope you can hear me. We are about to start our presentation by none other than Liang Ping, who's all the way in DC at the moment. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. And if you have any issues, you can write it in the chat box and we will try to answer. This presentation is going to be in English. Unfortunately, I can only speak English. But if you can have any questions in Chinese, you can write it in the chat box as well. And we have people behind the scene that can translate that, and we will, try to answer that. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome everyone to this Philo online talk session. It is co-creating an open photography culture, mission and purpose of Lightbox Photo Library. Now that is a very long title, but very important. I am Jeffrey Lim, your moderator for today. And first of all, I'd like to introduce what Philo does. Philo is a series of saloon talk revolving around discussion of philosophies and humanities, an art and culture exchange platform between Taiwan and Malaysia, organized by the Taiwan Economic and Cultural Office in Malaysia, and produced by INXO Arts and Culture Foundation. And I understand it's been going on for 5 years, so well done. Well done. Our guest speaker today is none other than the famous Liang Ping. I think not many of you know him here in Malaysia, but he is very important. Born and raised in Taiwan, I have to introduce him. He is the founder of Lightbox Photo Library in Taipei. He holds a Master of Fine Arts degree from the Pratt Institute and is the recipient of Fulbright Grant, New York residency program sponsored by the Ministry of Culture of Taiwan, and also Paris Photography Exchange Program. So I would say that he is really into photography. He devotes himself to public service, which we were just having a talk just now about being cultural workers. And he is currently one of the advisory committee members of the National Center of Photography and Images. And he's still the director of Lightbox Library, a shared social infrastructure for Taiwanese photography community, which is dedicated to the preservation and dissemination on advancement of local knowledge and creative practice in photography. So I'd like to say welcome. Let's welcome Yan Ping. Is Yan Ping here?
Yeah, sure. Yes. Do you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. First off, I would like to thank Ms. Joyce, SP, and staff at INSO Arts and Culture Foundation for making this event possible. And also, I'd like to thank Alan Ko, the culture curator at the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Malaysia, for her kind assistance. And thank you, Jeffrey, for moderating this conversation. It means a lot to me. Thank you. And because I'm speaking as a director of Lightbox Night, so I would like to thank for everyone who supported Lightbox Photo Library. Thank you. I see you and I appreciate you. And you're on my mind, and I aspire to live up to your support every single day. We're on this road together, and we're only getting started. So I think I would just that's it for my for the starters, and I'll share my slides for tonight. And feel free. Okay, sure, sounds.
Before I go there, I just like to say that during the talk, if any of you have questions, it's quite loose and free. So if you have any questions, you can write in the chat, and we can answer it along the entire chat. Right?
Yeah. Some housekeeping. You feel free to unmute yourself. The point is, conversation is not listening. It's about also, get your voice heard, so we can have conversations and to exchange, like really exchange, not just one way, or just me and between me and Jeffrey. There's many ways that you can, So, yes, thank you, Jeffrey, for that reminder. Okay, let's get started?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure you have a lot to cover.
Yeah, I need to cover some grounds. So do you see my slides?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. All right. Again, thank you for having me. Today, I'm gonna I'm talking about there will be 6 sessions in this talk. First, would be a brief self-introduction, and then I will introduce Lightbox and a crowdfund campaign, and then I would like to share 2 stories from our collaborative projects in the past, and then we will have we'll talk about library, what it means to be what it means to be a contemporary library, and finally I will end with 3 notes to myself, and hopefully I would like to share that with you. So that's the outline for today's talk. And first off, my name is Liangping Cao. I'm a cultural worker, and actually borrowed the term from Jeffrey. And I think it's a proper way to describe what I'm doing at the moment. So, but I would reflect on the what it means to be a cultural worker. And to be a cultural worker, I do exhibitions as well for my personal projects. And this my previous exhibition. It was like 4 years ago now. I've been working on Lightbox, so I really don't have time to do my own personal exhibition. And in addition to that, I also make publications. I'm working on a new one, Becoming Taiwanese. But I've been procrastinating because there's so many things at Lightbox. And then I curate shows from time to time, usually with my colleague. So it's a co-creation. We work with museums and PhotoFest and some other organizations. And I also teach at university as a part-time. And I would say teaching is probably one of the most radical form of learning. If you want to learn, consider teach. And public service, I also do some public services. Not only at Lightbox, I also work with many different organizational institutions, like the one you see in here. I don't know how many of you have been to Taiwan before the institution officially open. It's that the building was actually currently the National Center of Photography and Image in Taipei, Taiwan. So next time if you come to Taipei, please pay the visit. It's a really good museum. It's not huge, but they always show exhibition going on, and you get to see some really good classic or contemporary photograph from Taiwan. So it's a place to go. And I also work with other organizations like Hong Kong International Photo Fest, or Singapore International Photo Fest, or POI Asia in Singapore, like as a juror or review us. And this is where I'm at currently at the moment. I'm doing my research at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. It's actually a joint program between the Ministry of Culture and Fulbright Taiwan. And I believe that Ellen Ko, the director of TACO, is also involved in this. And thank you for the help to make this research really good one. I really enjoy my time there. It's the staff and then my colleague there was really helpful. It's good. And I also do some international exchange. Maybe I'm doing one at the moment. It's kind of like international exchange at the moment. But the image I'm showing you is the Hong Kong International Photo Fest. That's probably the last time I visited. It was in 2019. I would share one project that we did in today's talk. And yeah, I miss Hong Kong, and I hope my friends there were safe. And lastly, but not the least, I spend most of my time, I would say, in the community services and the co-creation project in Lightbox Photo Library in Taiwan. And you can see my colleague. And I haven't seen them for a couple of months. I miss them. But the reason why I'm doing this brief self-introduction is really to reflect on the idea of cultural worker, what it means to be a cultural worker in Taipei, Taiwan, 2022. And what's in the name of cultural worker? In my case, I would say you probably have to wear many hats. You do curating, teachings, or public services, or community service, all kinds of things. Possibly, it feels like a lifelong learning journey, but you could run the risk of becoming a jack of all trades. So I was discussing that with Jeffrey in a pre-meeting. So the point is, so to me, the important question to ask is, what drives you, or what's the most important thing in your life that you wanted to perceive, or the purpose. And so if you have that in mind, and then I think you're in the right direction, or in a good direction. If not, then you it would be to me, it would be really important to have one to really think about it, because it's so in short, it's really to know yourself. I mean, you in today's in my day-to-day job, you're dealing with so many different things, and then so it's important to really reflect on that, and instead of not only just looking outside, what's happening outside out there, but to really know where you're going, sometimes you need to look inside, and then to know how you feel and what you think. So that's my 2 cents. So yeah, so I think I would stop here. And then what do you think, Jeffrey? Do you?
Wow. Yeah, we had this conversation yesterday about how to describe yourself as an artist, and that has always been a hard point. What do you do? I'm an artist, but then exactly what do you do? So culture worker seems to be to hit the spot, because that's exactly what we do. We work with culture, and we're working towards betterment of something. So I guess that's exactly what you do too, Yang Ping. You've done so much. I think you're sort of like a legend in Taiwan. I'm surprised that not many, probably a lot of people in photography will know you, but more people should know about the work that you do.
Yeah, most the Lightbox, they don't need to know me, but it would be great they know about Taiwanese photography or the culture of Taiwan. That's the point, and I hope I can leave out the value that we are trying to advocate through our work. Yeah. Okay, I move on to if anyone wanted to unmute or raise question, feel free to do so, and I'll stop and then I'll listen. And okay, that's about the self-introduction. Now I'm going to give you a very brief introduction of Lightbox. Well, Lightbox is founded in 2016. It's a non-profit photo library based in Taipei, Taiwan, and it's free and open to all. And we are dedicated to the preservation, dissemination, and advancement of local perspective and creative practices in photography. And we get asked this question a lot: why was Lightbox established in the first place? Well, it's actually a very long story, but long story short, I think I think we can all come down to 2 points. The first one is we hope to make the environment better, because before the establishment, we found out that there's some issues in concerning the Taiwanese photography environment. Say, if you're a researcher, you'll realize if you want to do research about the history of photography, and the archive and the material was just scattered and incomplete. I remember I was researching on a important figure in Taiwanese photography, Dr. McKay. And he's actually relatively well known, but I was surprised to find that his material was actually hard to find as well. Even a famous person like Dr. McKay, his archive was rarely to be seen. It's really hard to be seen. So that firsthand experience really stunned me. And then if you aspire to be a photographer, a critic in photography, or curator in photography or contemporary photography, you realize there's no educational program offered in the university or art school. So you either have to teach yourself or go pro. In my case, I would just learn by myself, and then just buy books and learn by myself. And eventually I decided to go to the US to further my study. That's some people were like that. And then if you want to know who else were also into certain photography, and you don't know where to find them, you don't know where's this go to play. There are very few places, but you don't see people, the similar people. So it's really hard to seek out the like-minded people. So we're thinking perhaps we could do something about it. So that's the idea. And the idea is that if we can collectively, we can work together to make the environment better, everyone wins, because we're in this all together. And because I think the quality of our life or our learning also depend on other people's quality of learning. So if we can come together, then everybody wins. The environment will thrive, and then the culture will thrive. And for another one, it's really about living out the values that we firmly believe. We operate on a 3-0 basis, because we realize that's really the way to go, and to lower the barrier for people to who are interested in learning more about photography in Taiwan, is really want to do it a really radical way. So we decided we use this idea of 3-0 to operate this photo library. So in short, the idea in short is to let the road to the knowledge of photography be flat. And the philosophy of just a few more words about the philosophy of Lightbox. And there are basically 3 core values, core idea. The first one is called nonprofit. And what is nonprofit? In short, is the idea of putting purpose before profit. But I'm not saying that which one is more important. Actually, they are equally important. If you have some experience in running a organization or business, be it for profit or non-for-profit, you realize how tough it is to stay alive. So it's actually, you need both of them, and they are equally important. But the thing is, when you make a decision for a nonprofit organization, there's this priority, yeah. And the second one is, we believe that the culture is for everyone to co-create. We should enable everyone to participate, because we are in this all together. So it's about the co-creation of photography. And lastly, it's the idea of sharing the learning resources, because we benefit from the kindness and goodwill from your teachers, your peers, and we wanted to pay forward. And I think it's an important value. Help, and you help yourself by helping others, and that's, yeah, it's mutual help, and mutually beneficial action. And that's just something we wanted to put forward. And it's all theory, what I've been saying, which is all philosophy, all theory. How do we do that in practice? So in real life, in reality, in our day-to-day operation, it's like we're putting 3-0, the idea, in practice. So during our opening hours, you don't have to make any reservation or become a member or pay any entrance fee. There's none of that. And you can have free access to all the photo books or photo book exhibitions or events like talks or workshop or screenings. and it's always just walk in and you can read them, you can access them. That's the idea. And but let me show you that the first image you saw in the beginning wasn't like that. In Lightbox was nothing like that in the beginning. If you look at the top left image, it was like that. It's a really humble and simple beginning. It's kind of almost embarrassed to
It was above a
look back.
I was there.
Yeah, you've been there, yes, and you know that. And it was a really humble beginning. We only have we started off with 400 books. And we tell people that, hey, it's a photo library. And so some people would really get confused when they enter the space. But that's how we started. And but over time, you realize it grows real quick. And in 2 years, in less than 2 years, you see the photo on the top right, and you see it's growing. We're gradually running out of the shelf space. And then people responded to our mission really positively and enthusiastically. So we're really grateful. So we grow from 400 books to more than 5,000 books now. And then we have book donors from more than 600 donors from 30 plus countries all over the world. And I would say we have more than 1,000 contributors to this mission, to our mission. They can be our volunteers, they can be make donation money or books, and yeah, people help out, and it's an amazing journey to look back. It's been 6 years and more than 6 years, so you can see the growth. Yeah. And then in return, we get supported by the community. So in return, we want to support the community as well. So the top row image with the in the older space, so we can accommodate 3,500 visitors a year. Half of them were here for will come to read the photo books or the exhibition, and half of them were really for the events. And when we moved to the new space, we kind of doubled our operations. Our services. We welcome more than 7,000 visitors annually. But it was hit a little bit by the pandemic. So this is a floor plan of the new space, and I'm going to share a little bit later more about this new space later. So in all, it's our new space. It's a barrier-free environment, meaning that more people can access. It's not only the able-bodied people, it's everyone. You can see the wheelchair users in the top left, bottom left image. There's some wheelchair user or parents with kids. They can easily access the library. So the idea is really to, because we used to be on the third floor of an old building. So when we have events, we see we realize sometimes people wanted to access, but they can't, because they're maybe senior citizens, or they're using a wheelchair, or they are using a crutch, and then they just cannot get access. So that's in our mind, that's stuck in our mind, but we can't do anything about it because we're on the third floor. So when we finally had this chance to use to have access, to be able to use the first floor space, we decided we discussed with the architect and the designers, and we told them, hey, we encountered certain issues in the past, and we wanted to be able to more accessible to more people. Yeah, so that's why it's the environment become the design. We want to make this environment more friendly, not only to the ordinary people, but people with special needs, and they can feel comfortable coming in without assistance, or they can feel comfortable. So that's the idea. and we're glad that we be able to expanding the idea of free to all to more people. Yeah. And then I think my colleague after we moved to a new space, we made a new video. I think in the beginning of the talk, you watched a previous video, but I think it's a 3 minutes video. If you watch it, I think you will get a really good sense of what new Lightbox is about. It's like, and our operation and mission fairly well. And it was the voiceover actually from my from my colleague. So it's only 3 minutes. Let's have a look.
Probably there's no sound, but maybe
No sound?
Yeah, maybe you can explain what's happening.
Oh, there's no sound. I forgot to let me do it again. I know what happened. Yeah, I forgot. Share sound. Okay, let's do it again. Sorry about that. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
嗨，大家好，
Can you do that?
我
Can
们
you
是
hear that?
Lightbox 摄影图书室。从2016年开始，我们便坚持以非盈利的方式，努力保存、推广和共享台湾的影像资产，让 Lightbox 成为一个人人都可以自由学习摄影的地方。刚成立的 Lightbox 空间很小，但是有越来越多人来参加活动，或是捐书给我们，这也让 Lightbox 的空间渐渐不足。于是我们在2018年向台北市政府申请了一个闲置的公共空间，发起第一次的群众集资计划，获得了700多人的支持，成功让老房子获得新生命，也让 Lightbox 能顺利搬到新家。新空间的无障碍设计，更让亲子、高龄与轮椅使用者能轻松入馆，也带来了更多的人潮。5年来，我们从30多个国家募集了5000多本摄影书，是台湾目前最丰富的摄影藏书基地。更举办了300多场讲座活动，吸引了许多国内外的摄影爱好者前来参访，帮助大家透过摄影认识台湾的历史、社会与艺术文化。除此之外，我们也积极地整理各种摄影学习资源，在 Lightbox 的网站上开放地提供给大家。希望打破时空的限制，让所有人都可以自由取用。
要在台湾的摄影环境中保留一块开放共享的园地，让所有人都可以平等的取得知识，其实相当不容易。很感谢在募资过程中每一位参与共建的朋友及伙伴们的努力与坚持，让 Lightbox 可以持续为社群服务。
然而，开放是有成本的。2019年搬到新空间之后， Lightbox 的空间变大3倍，馆藏成长2倍，也收到更多国内外机构的合作邀请，这也让我们的工作量大幅增加。许多原本要做的计划也碍于经费与人力，迟迟无法执行。2019年的空间修缮与搬迁，更让 Lightbox 累积了高达120万的财务赤字。虽然我们很努力地申请政府奖补助，去承揽基金会的教育推广计划，但是不稳定的收入和现金流也让营运压力居高不下，甚至让我们随时可能面临生存的危机。我们相信在自由竞争的舒适之外，也需要有非盈利的方式来落实文化平权，让通往知识的道路是平坦的。Lightbox 不只是一间非盈利的摄影图书室，更是一场文化、教育与共享精神的社会实践。尽管面对财务的困境与人手的不足，我们仍坚持最初单纯的信念，就是在台湾的摄影森林中培育自由的花、平等的树，共同耕耘一块开放共享的园地，打造一个为所有人开放的精神时光屋。邀请您和我们一起，让这片摄影森林的源头长流，更让属于台湾的摄影故事生生不息。
Okay, thank you. I hope it's sorry. I just realized it doesn't have okay. Sorry that it doesn't have an English subtitle, but I think that you can tell from the visual that's get the idea. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the crowdfund campaign that mentioned, but mostly just images. So to let you know the transition, how we move from the older space to the new space, and then what happened in the process. Yeah. So so in 2018, we realized we're running out of space, and then you can tell like we're getting more and more books, and there are more people attending the event. So it's usually packed, and then not only the book but also the people. It's so, and realize that there's this need that we need to move to a bigger space. And so we started to scout the potential space for our growth. And then we encountered this disused public space owned by the Taipei City government. So we decided, so we work on this renovation and revitalization projects, and in late 2018. And then, because you can see that that's what happened in the past. The people were really responding to the events, and then but it's a sweet burden. I mean, we're really happy to see people coming in using the material resources, and it was a really intimate experience in the older space. But sometimes it gets too crowded, and then it's not for everyone. I just felt that we deserve a better. They deserve better yeah. It's not sustainable, and so we need a bigger space. So we found this disused public space, and then we're doing some site survey, and then you can tell, you can see it was like this. When we first encountered the space, it was, we're checking out the space. It was not in a very good shape, but we decide we're gonna turn it into a new Lightbox. So, but we don't have the money, and so we decide we need a we need to do a crowdfunding campaign. We need to engage the community. We need to tell them that we can do this together and make it work. And so in 2019 September, we launched this campaign. So it was a 6 months journey, and we just keep doing this crowdfund project, and at the same time the construction bill and it's keep coming. So it's like you have to raise enough money to pay the bill, and then at the same time the construction is going on. So it's like it's kind of exciting. and let me show you the site. So it was like this. And so basically we just toned down the whole thing almost, and to start from from zero again. But something remained, just a few wall remains, but mostly we took down because it was a residency. It was more of a residence space, but we turned it into a library, photo library. So you see a lot of construction is going on. So it's basically a start. It's a new start for this space. And then a lot of people were actually helped, not only through donation. This is our this one of our contractor who's working on the all this iron work, and we were there and to talk with them to know how things were going. So we call it others. How do you call it? Master other. He's the construction worker who is dealing with all this iron things, and then he was curious about what this this space is about to become. And then we shared the story with Ada, and then at the end of our conversation, he told us he's actually trying to install the big ceiling, that the windows, using huge glass onto the roof. and he tell us that he will pay for the glass for free for us. So it was like, we were like really shocked. I said, what? So he was really kind. And after learning our story, he wanted to be a contributor, and in ways that he could. So we're really grateful to him. So during the construction, many people help out in different ways. And so that's just one story that I still remember vividly today. And the carpentries work on the construction side. So in 6 months' time, it's finally done. It was a bit longer than we expect, but looking back, it's actually good because it gave us enough time to raise money. If it's done in 3 months, we probably won't be able to pay the bill on time. So it's good. It's a blessing in disguise. So we have enough time to raise the money, and then it was in the end we received donation from more than 700 people, and we raised a little more than $3 million new Taiwan dollars, and we're really grateful. And then we had this a very simple open ceremony. We invite some guests, like they could be lawmaker or government officials or some professionals, the media, some visitors or donors, contributors, and they're coming together to for this to see this finally establishment, because they're all involved in this. And then we're really grateful that they come.
Just as a reference point, 3.2 million Taiwan dollars is about $500,000 ringgit in Malaysia. So that's a lot of money in 6 months to raise and to build. So that's kudos to you, man.
Yeah, and people have been very generous. So and I would say a lot of them has to do the hard work of my colleague. They're really like working hard to make this possible. And that's the opening, and it was great. And then we won this All Building New Life Award in 2019 after this accomplished. And then to our surprise, we won the first prize of community space. But it's really the collaboration. It's not us. It's really the for the community that make it possible. And then we were selected as the top 10 visual news in 2019 by a really it's our magazine called The Artist, which been up and running for 40 plus years. It was a really the old prestige magazine, and but all of this it won't be possible without the GovZero community. So I really need to have a special shout out to the GovZero community in Taiwan, because the reason why we would be able to find a new space and to see hope is really from this community, the GovZero. I don't know how many of you have heard, probably some of you know that, but it's funded in Taiwan around 2012. And it's a decentralized civic tech community, and they're advocating for information transparency, open compliments, and then open results. And this community there's so many contributors in this community and working on various kind of projects. And I drew I get many inspiration from their projects. And my colleague, and the reason why we'll be able to find a space, the disused space, is actually from one project in this community. So it's really the GovZero community that make this possible. So I want, and whenever I talk about this crowdfund campaign, it's really people really have to know them, because they're really humble and they're really invisible. They don't really talk about their contribution, but they're the backbones. Yeah. So a special shout out to GovZero. Thank you. So that's the crowdfund campaign, and later I'm gonna basically share two stories from our previous collaborative projects. And yeah, the first one would be, it's called it's a panel discussion. It's a discussion forum, and the topic is about Me Too movement in contemporary photography. It was in 2019, I think. It's 2018. It's been 4 years. It's a discussion forum held at the MOCA Taipei. It's not a Lightbox. We were still in the old space. We can hold this huge event. And what happened why do we do this? Well, it all comes down to this. It was this controversy between the photographer, the really famous photographer, Japanese photographer, Araki Nobuyoshi, and his long-term collaborator, model Kaori, and this controversy. So basically, in short, it's Kaori, wrote an open letter, basically she accused of Araki for being exploitative and abusive while during their collaborations. And it's like dropping a bomb in the water, and it was huge. It was huge. But the odd thing is everyone was silent. It's huge news. Everybody knows, but no one talks about. And I remember back then, I was actually, when that happened, I was in Japan. So I talked to the curators and the publishers that who worked with Araki before, and during our dinner conversations, and I realized they don't know how to talk about it, and it's really difficult issue to talk about. And when I returned to Taipei, my colleague told me, "Hey, Leon, good news, and we got more book donations, but we have a problem. It's a photo book by Araki Nobuyoshi, and there Kaori's image in it. And what do we do about it?" And so that would be the question. I'm gonna tell you for the moment, but maybe that's something for us to think about at the end of the story. So we were like, interesting. Do we accept the donation, or do we turn down or decline the offer? Or what else can we do in this difficult situation, in this controversial situation? And we have no idea. It was really tough. And then we have this donation, and we have this situation. So we decided, and we realized that photographers or models alone won't be able to resolve these issues. And then in Taiwan, and back then when the controversy occurs, the photo community in Taiwan were actually quite silent as well. But the thing is, we all know that Araki is quite influential in Taiwan. Even in Taiwan, there are many supporters, or many people like him by his book or by his work even. But it was really silent, and everybody muted themselves. Everybody was like muted. And so we decided to break the silence. We decided to, hey, why don't we come together and talk about it? And so we decided to organize a huge panel discussion event. So we invite an artist, a model, a lawyer, and a researcher. And of course, the audiences who care about these issues. We come together and then share our thoughts together, because I think the important thing is I think we are not in the position to judge, but the important thing is, how can we understand this controversy better? Because individually we're biased. We all have our blind spot. We see certain part of the issues, but we need people to share lights on different parts of the issues. so we can see better and make more informed opinion or decision about this. I mean, it's easy to like or dislike someone, but to make an informed opinion and decision, we need deliberation. We need to listen to people from different fields. So this controversy made us realize that it's the photographer alone is not enough. We need to come together. We need researchers. We need lawyers. We also need models' voices, which is not usually heard in many cases. So we had this event at MoCA, and it was like 3.5 hour long discussion. And we do it through not only in a physical event, but also do the live streaming and video recording. So people can attend online. If they are not in Taipei, they can attend online. And also, if they miss the event, it's fine because we made the transcription of the event, and it will feel like you're reading the tweets from different speakers, and it was like a little more than 50,000 words, and you can read the whole thing in maybe 20 minutes, real quickly, and you get a good sense of what's being discussed and what question or concern people raised in this controversy. And in addition to that, in addition to the discussion that that could be helpful for people to make informed decisions or opinion about the controversy, we work with lawyers. We devise a portrait photography contract. This is not only for photographer, but for models alike, so they can use this contract. So to know their rights, and then to come to an agreement, to know beforehand, before the collaboration happens, they know their right, they know the line, they know where to draw the lines and their rights, what the rights are. So make it clear. So, and it's free and open to all. So yeah, it's on our websites. So back to the dilemma, the book donation dilemma of this situation that we encountered. So do we, so when the controversy happens and people donate Araki Nobuyoshi's photo book and that contain the image of Kaori, what do you do? I'm really curious about your your opinions and suggestions too. Would you, if you were us, if you were one of us, what would you say? Do we accept the donations, or do you decline, or any other thoughts? Yeah, and I'll be happy to know what you have to say and why on this issue, because that's what we encounter like day to day. Yeah, so yeah.
Well, for one, as a library, I think you have to be unbiased towards accepting any book donation. What are the criteria, first of all, that would make a photo book? I think that was what I was trying to do in the exhibition that I created. So I think it's putting you on the spot, putting Lightbox on the spot, whether you would accept something that has controversy. But why only this? It can be, there are a lot of other things that are controversial as well. So only that the timing of this put you in the spot to actually decide. I'm not so sure how a crowd would feel about it. But in my view, I would feel as a photo book library, which is egalitarian, that means it's open to everyone. It is possible to accept this book, which is a reference and a record of that point in time. So not a moral question, because that is not what the Lightbox is about. Lightbox is about free to all for information, and yeah, it can be a point of reference as well.
Yeah, fair point. It's a good point. Intellectual freedom is very important value for a library or librarian. but at the same time, we cannot, we strive for the neutrality, because as an institution, but the thing is, the reality is no museum or library is neutral. But but the point is, you cannot assume that the library is neutral. So you work on that. So you work on the neutrality, and it's political. But I think one very important value to consider is intellectual freedom. It's not in we don't have the authority to or to tell readers what to think and how to feel about it. But do we accept the donation as it is? We didn't do anything, or just decline, or so it's really tricky. It's political, so we have to make a stance. It's like you can't be neutral. Like what happened in Ukraine, and you stay neutral. I think it's not it's just weird. It's just not right. And then so in this situation, although it doesn't happen in Taiwan, and it doesn't really harm anyone in Taiwan or from Taiwan, but I think it could happen in Taiwan. So if that happens, what do we do? And so that's very tough questions. So do I tell you what we do, or we do it later? I'll share it at the end. But there's something for everyone to digest. I'll share our practice at the end.
Sure.
So yeah. But if you have anything to add, and you want to share your thoughts, please feel free to do so. Just unmute yourself, and then we hear you. We like to hear your opinion on that. Yeah. So maybe we could, it could be valuable to us to know. Okay. Another story is this. It's called the Land on Wall project. As most of you would be aware, that what happened in 2019 in Hong Kong. There's this protest, this movement of anti-extradition law movement. The Hong Kong people, they wanted to, they were not happy with the government were doing, and so they come together and then to get their voice heard. And they were like 2 million. I think at its peak there were 2 million people on the street, more than 2 million people on the street to make their voice heard. They're not happy about. They disagree with the government, and they want the government to follow the people's will. And unfortunately, we know it doesn't happen. But anyway, but back then we're in Taiwan, so people were launching this Land on Wall project. So you see Land on Wall all over Taipei, and this one of them that's really near Lightbox. But the Land on Wall, the idea of Land on Wall usually is a very organic one. It just appear like somewhere out of organically, and then it disappear over time. But in Taiwan, it's a very different case. If you want to use a public space, you have to apply for permission, and then when the time's up, you have to remove it. So to make it clean again. So we are all law-abiding citizens, so we don't want to cause trouble. So you can be law-abiding and be supportive to the movement in Taiwan. So when we realized that it would be taken down, the Land on Wall be taken down, we realized that, hey, maybe there's something we can do about it. So it would be the democratic memory would be kept. So the voices can be remembered, it can be seen afterward for the future. Yeah, because we know that what's going on in Hong Kong is that they're trying to remove all these democratic memories, and in the public library or even in the theaters, you don't get to see those things. They're just trying to silence that and replace with something different. And so it's really important. It's an imperative for us to preserve that. anything related to the democratic memory of Hong Kong. And then if you pay a close look, that's the 5 major demands from the movement, which is really like peaceful and it's really reasonable. And then you can see, and because it's a very democratic war, so you can spot they're actually opinions siding with the Hong Kong police. So yeah, but that's democracy. There are all kinds of voices, but I would say in all in all that people were like we're standing with Hong Kong people. Mostly it was standing with Hong Kong, and and you can see not only the text, the writing, the voice, but also there's some arts, really interesting art, and really realistic drawing, and some arts. It's really inspiring too. And so we decided to, because it was a huge passage, and so it wasn't easy to document the whole thing. So we asked a photographer friend, Binghua Chen, to help, because he's really like the expert of this panoramic photography. And then so let me show you real quick how we do. So we decide one evening, Binghua and I and my friend, one of my friend, Wang Xuan, went to the underpass, where the Lennon Wall is, and we documented the whole thing. I think it took us about a little more than 2 hours, and we photographed more than 700 photographs. And it was like that. People just coming and going, and so we took the shots in between the during the intervals, and then when no one is passing, and so that's the outcome. So when you're in the spot, you don't see this panoramic. So it's really, really good that you can get to see this panoramic image on the computer. So you can see the whole thing in one shot. That's a very different visual experience. And just to sense the scale of it, it's huge. I mean, the support from Taiwan to Hong Kong is just huge. And then and we want people to remember that. And if people want to pay a close look, take a close look, it's possible, because it's a collaboration between Lightbox, and we're really grateful to Binghua Chen in the center, and also Wikidata Taiwan. Why do we work with Wikidata Taiwan? Because we want to make it available to everyone, and because we don't want the image file to be taken down by any government or anyone. It's online, and it will be there permanently. And anyone who are interested in using this image, they're free to do it, because it's a CC0. It's created as a CC0, and you don't need any license or permission to use it. You can download it, and it won't be taken down. It will just be up in the Wikipedia page. And then I remember Binghua, the photographer, upload also not only the JPEG one, but also a really big, a large file. I think it's more than 2 gigabytes that you can print really like hugely. And then yeah, it's up there. And then it's a really memorable collaboration between Lightbox and the photographer Binghua and Wikidata Taiwan. And it's for us, it's a memorable collaboration, and we just wanted to let people know that it's the struggle. It's never ending. We're staying with Hong Kong. And lastly, we are just going to talk really briefly about the library, what it means to be a library. I didn't come to this in the beginning, but just a learning process. When we talk about library, it's usually some sociologists, I think it's American sociologist Ray Ottenberg, first coined the term the third place. You can see library as a third place between, in addition to your home and workplace, it's an important third place for people to go and to meet with other people, people from different social backgrounds. And later I came across a different book, another book called The Palace for the People by Eric Klinenberg. He's an NYU professor of sociology. And in this book, he coined a term called social infrastructure. And among all those social infrastructure, it can be like pub in the Britain, or it can be the park, or it can be a square in Italy. It's just a place people come together and gather. But he think in contemporary civic society, the most important social infrastructure will be library, where you get to meet people from different walks of life, and you can have a very open and honest dialogue there, because everyone's equal there. And so we were really glad to realize that, oh, okay, we actually, library can be a really important contributor to the democracy to help diversify, and not only its collection, showing the diversity of thoughts and cultures, but also a place where people can come together in this more and more digitized and isolated and online experience. So yeah, and also photo book to us is also we consider it as a social object. It's good for you to have like intimate relationship when you read by yourself, but you can see in the image, photo book can be a social object where they can read it together. You can have a book talk, a book club, a book conversation from one book. So it's important that the book will actually help people to connect and to have conversations. So that's, to me, the important thing about library. And actually a contemporary library can do so much more. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in library or the idea of social infrastructure, will highly recommend a book by Eric Klinenberg, The Path for the People. But if you're interested in the idea of third place, you can also read Ottenberg's book, The Great Good Place. It's also a good read. And when we think about the future of library or Lightbox, I wanted to talk about the public lending right program. The public lending right program, I think it's not very common, but currently there are 35 countries in the world that has this PLR program. Well, basically it's a compensation it's a compensation policy. Like, say, if you're a reader, you check out a physical book from the library, the author and publisher get a certain amount of money for this from this program. And Taiwan is working on this, and it's probably the first country in Asia to introduce this PLR program. Well, if you consider New Zealand and Australia as Asian country, we're probably the third one. But in East Asia and Southeast Asia, we're probably the first country in this region to introduce PLR program. I think it was a really great program because that would really encourage people to check out. It's a win-win situation for the publisher and for the reader and for the cultural worker in general, because the idea of author can be expanded in this program. So who are the authors? The idea of author. In the past, we were thinking about writers or photographer or the artists, but in this program, in some country, if you're an interpreter, translators of the book, you're considered an author. If you're an illustrator, if you provide illustration to the book, you're also the author. So this program actually expand the idea of authorship. So I think it's really positive a way to prospect development. I think I like that, and it's actually really acknowledging the different contribution from different people and different professions. I think that's a really positive development. And another one is idea is called the controlled digital lending. This one is a little it's a little controversial at this stage. One of the most prominent advocate for the CDL, controlled digital lending, is Internet Archive in San Francisco. And the idea of controlled digital lending is very similar to like just your physical experience of borrowing a book from a library. It just happened in digital environment. It's just enable you, this program, the CDL program, just enable reader to check out book online. But you can only check out, so according to the quantity you have in your collection. If you say you're a library, you have 2 books of Jeffrey's photo books, and then you can only be checked out twice online. And while you were loaning the book, you have to wait in line when it was returned. So it's basically, it's not like the ebook where you can have maybe 100 people or 1,000 people read the same book at the same time. It's not like that. It's just you can check out book and one at a time, and when it's returned, you can decide to renew or be loaned to the next people in line. So that's the idea, the controlled digital lending. But some publishers doesn't like the idea because it seemed to be a threat to the revenue. But I think it was basically the same thing, because during the pandemic, a lot of public libraries were closed. A lot of schools were closed, public libraries were closed. So the education, people's access to knowledge, to book, was actually closed. And even in the non-pandemic era period of time, some people, especially in America, in the case of America, some state in some small town in the Midwest, the nearest public library could be like 100 miles away. It's just not feasible to go there. And if you don't have a car, you won't be able to go there, and it's too far. So if you have this CDL program introduced, that would really help those people in need. And so you can't really think of in terms of a city, in a developer. You have to think about all other people in different area, in different part of the country. Yeah, so I think CDL is the way forward, but still meet a lot of opposition. But at least in Taiwan, we're seeing the PR program implementing. So we'll see what happens. So finally, a note to self. So okay, I have 22 seconds. For some notes to self for this past 6 years, I just want to share some of my learnings so far. I think the photo library, Lightbox, is trying to foster this radical exchange of human knowledge, emotion, and culture, and library can play a role in that. And if we have PLR and CDL programs and the abundance of photo books in the future, I think we can achieve the radical exchange, and I think in the end it would benefit everybody. And also in the meantime, I think we're in this transitional stage of from a physical space to digital environment. More and more things are going digital. But the thing is, the relationship between the physical and the virtual is not an adversary one. It's not in competition. I think it's a symbiotic one. The digital book is not there to replace a printed book. They both have their unique value to offer. And it's just everyone have a different needs. And then when we think about printed books or a digital book, it's not one replacing another. It's about coexistence, their coexistence. And we were hoping to foster this symbiotic relationship between an understanding between the printed book and digital book as well, because people will have different needs. And lastly, I think it's what I learned in here, because a lot of maybe it's because in this 2 months time I spent in the DC, I can feel that people, the awareness of people's awareness of diversity, the importance of diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion, or DEAI in short, is rising. People are more and more aware of that, and I think it's important to rethink photography to DEAI, because in return, DEAI would actually forge a new way for the future of photography. I think it would be a mutually beneficial thing if we if we could take DEAI into consideration in the future development. And I think that's the way forward. And I hope Lightbox Photo Library can play a small part in that, and in Taiwan, and share our experiences. And I hope the stories that I share today could somewhat reflect the values that we trying to advocate or practice in our day-to-day work and in our services to the community. But yeah, thank you for listening, and that's it for me. And now I'm all ears. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Liang-Ping. My God, that is, well, one thing for sure, I think it's without doubt that you are working for the people. There is a very interesting theme that's going on here in your entire presentation, that yes, photography for you is a tool. It's no longer just about photography. It's what photography can do for the people, betterment of the people. And the policies that you put into how Lightbox works, and then how, I guess, with all the other panels and all the other work that you do, all gravitate towards some humanity, some form of this DEAI, inclusivity. I think that is the common theme I find in your entire work. And you said, yeah, you have many hats. You do many things. I'd like to open it to the floor. If you guys have any question for Liang-Ping. Liang-Ping has traveled the world. He's right now at a fellowship in DC, doing the same thing, re-envisioning library. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about that, which is moving the library into a digital sphere.
Sure. Yeah. For the next 3 years, the important initiative we're working on is this digital Lightbox initiative. We fortunately get some funding from the government. So I think we have some fuels for this initiative. But the idea is really to expand our operation in the digital space. And so we can be of service to a greater community. We want to engage. We want to be a more open. We want to be, as an organization, we want to be more open and inclusive. So we can, to do that, to achieve that, I think we could use the digital technology to help us achieve that. And so, because what we are doing, because the website we're having at the moment is very much like not designed for the digital environment. It's really more of an archive of what we have done in the physical space, or the you know, all the knowledge generated is happen in a physical space, and then we kind of store that or share that in our website. But it's not really designed for the digital users' needs of their habits, or like to facilitate that. So I think we need to switch that. And then also we wanted to also to further advance the culture, the development of the photographic culture in Taiwan. I think we need to have more international exchange. We need to know what's happening outside Taiwan in order to reflect on our own culture, because you need to know what's going on outside and keep it on the outside, so you know whether you're in the right direction. So that comparison is important. That frame of reference is important. That you need to be more informed of outside, what's outside of you, and what people have been doing. So sometimes you have to be like me in the residency, so you physically collect, but you can also do the information gathering and analysis and all translations, and share that information and make it more accessible. Translation, interpretation is a very important part of that shift too, initiative too. So yeah.
I have a few questions, but there's a few questions coming from Silver Yi, and she's curious about the donation thing. How did you raise 500,000 ringgit in 6 months? That is a lot of money to raise. So I think that's one question. And then the other one was about the Araki controversy, but maybe we can revisit that Araki later. But let's say, yeah, the donation, I'm really surprised you can raise that much money so fast.
Yeah, before, it's the first crowdfund campaign that we did, so we have no idea how to do it. So we work with professionals. My colleague, one of my colleagues, happened to know a company who really whose expertise is about crowdfund campaigns. So I think if you're doing it for the first time, it would probably wise to have advisor, work with people who've done this, who's really experienced in doing that. So that's one key. And because we don't have money, so we tell them, you don't have to make video for us, a website for us. We'll do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
But we need your experience and advice. So we pay them really small amount of money just for the meeting, to report them. That's what we do. What do you think? So they give us a lot of suggestions to fine tune our direction and communication strategies. So that's one thing. You partner with the experienced organizations.
Was there any funds left after the building of the space?
No, we actually need more money. It's actually with exceeding. We end up paying in a little bit debt, but we're okay. Yeah, we survive.
Well, you're still here, and then you still serve.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah. So we're hanging in there.
Yeah, well done. Well, the Araki controversy. I think this touches a lot of other controversy as well, between model or subject matter and the photographer and the publisher as well, because it has to be published. So in this case, Araki published his own book. So he was the publisher, he was the photographer, and then there was the model. So I guess he wants to know about the outcome of this controversy. Did Araki say anything at the end, or did he respond?
As far as I know, he remained silent all over. Yeah, he just remained silent. He didn't respond. Yeah, that's the strategy. Just ignore it.
It's the Asian strategy. I think it's also Asian confrontation. It's how we confront. So Kaori was really standing out, and it's not really in Asian culture to confront in that way, especially in an open letter. So that's why everyone was probably dumbfounded like how to respond to that. But you're right in trying to create a forum and trying to address this kind of issue and get over that barrier, that confrontation barrier. We should actually start to question, start to confront. The same thing like you're trying to do, start to question and start to know. What was the outcome? Did you accept the books?
Yeah, conditionally. Yeah, we at the end, I think we know we realize that we have to acknowledge the fact that no museum is neutral. We do have a stance, but the thing is, we are not in the role to tell people what to think or how to feel. So, but the thing is, to have a balanced point of view perspective on the book is important to expand the idea of authorship. So when we do one thing. When we accept the donation, of course, we acknowledge their generosity for book donation and a really thought-provoking book donation. And so in response, we don't want to just accept the donation as it is. And so we contact, because the open letter by Kaori was translated in Taiwan. The translator got the permission from Kaori, and it translated into Mandarin, and it's in public. So we contact the author who translated the article and say, can we print it out your translation? Because we wanted to add that perspective in the book. So we printed out the open letter, and then we have this little foreword, some notes, and to make the reader aware of the controversy. And so when they read the book, of course they will get the perspective from the author, publishers, but at the same time they are also aware of what's going on and in their collaboration. So to me, it's the idea, if you really believe the idea of co-creation, then the photography, especially portrait photography, is actually a collaborative portrait. It not only reflect the model, but also the photographer, but in an invisible way. But if you're an experienced photographer, you can tell the collaboration, but not everything. But that's the idea. So we accept it, and we add this Kaori's perspective to it, and so people, when they read a book, they know the context. Yeah.
Oh, that draws a fuller picture. I think it won't be the only book. Then you probably have to go through your entire 5,000 books in your library. I'm sure there's a lot of other controversy. That's interesting that you're trying to add a voice, a Lightbox morality voice to it, and I think you can probably add a lot of notes to other books as well. We have another question from Alvin. I hope that answers your question, Silver. From Alvin Lau, who is a photographer in Malaysia. He's very young, and he says that he appreciates the talk and very insightful, but he'd like to know more about your closing thoughts, which is about that DEAI, inclusivity, more about that. And also your thoughts on the global trend of photo books. Are we moving, because you're talking about bringing books online, which is digitizing with the internet controlled digital lending and public lending, but this is seen on screen or on your phone, and it's very different from the photo book experience as a social object. So I'm sure there's a lot of conflict between that, having a physical book as a social object and then something that is online. And so I think that's one conflict there, or maybe a point of reference. So these are the two questions. One is about the DEAI, and the other one about photo book trend in general.
Sure. Thank you, Alvin. I think the DEAI, I share some example that I hear. For Lightbox, I mean, DEAI it's a political process. It's not easy. It's a struggle. There's always a lot of struggles, but it's important questions to ask and to address too. Take the National Gallery of Art, for example, where I'm doing my research right now. They're reflecting on their collection. Like a lot of museums are recollecting, they're kind of re-examining their collections. Because if you do a survey, they did a quick survey of their collection, they realized that NGA, the National Gallery of Art's collection, with 90%, the art with 95% white, male. And it's really white and male. And they're very female or from people of color.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. They realize some things. It's a national gallery, so it should be representational in terms of demographic. We know that in terms of demographic, that less than 50% of whites that consists of the population, the U.S. population. There are more and more Hispanic and Black populations, and some Asians too. So you really want to reflect on that. You wanted to do justice to the different populations. So there are a lot of things that they can do, but so they're working on the collection plan. So for future development, they wanted to go to the direction that could better represent the nation. Because at the moment, they're 95% white male artists and old, really white old male artists, and it's not represented. It's not, and you're seeing from their eyes again and again, and you're not seeing other things, and so you need reflections. And another one, so that could be, it's a huge thing, it's a huge task. And for another one, it could be, but DEAI could be as little as a change of the wording. I just came across this, I think the other day. I think it's on Wikipedia, because everyone kept the rights to can be an editor of Wikipedia. Yeah. And you know what happened in Ukraine, and yes. Now some Russian editor, maybe not Russian editor, or pro-Russian editor, they're trying to name Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, yeah. And they want to spell it as Kyiv. That's how the Russians spelled it, but that's not how Ukraine people spelled it. The Ukraine people spelled Kief. That's how they spelled it, but the Russian people wanted to the wording their way, and so there's this conflict. And then, but if the Ukraine people accept the Russian spelling, they're still in this colonizing. They're still being colonized in a way. They should have the right to choose their own way of spelling. It could be as small as that, and that's little resistance, or the wording is actually as big as decolonizing. It's a gesture, small gesture, but they're trying to decolonize to resist that. So I think it can be as small as a word, but it could be like a collection of a huge institution of 1,000 people. So it's an everyday thing. But it can be very personal as well. So, but thank you for the question.
Yeah, just about the last one, which is the global photo book trend in general. Because this is also a controversy for me, being a social object, it means printing and making the book. So you have a journey between opening the covers, and then and also your digital library. So that's an added question. So what are your thoughts on the global photo book trend? And then how does that differ between a social object and a digital object?
Global photo book. I don't know. I don't know the global. I know some part in Taiwan, some parts in the US.
A lot of photo books.
Yeah, I know some. It's hard to say the global. Maybe national. I can tell you a little bit, but global. But from the media outlet, I'm in touch with I think the culture is thriving, and I think you see positive sign. More and more people are making photo books for various reasons, and I think it's good. But it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't mean a really hard copy, like really, you know, photo book. It could be like zine. You know, it could be a really good way. It could be a good alternative for you to invest your limited resources to say exhibition. I think it would be also wise to make a zine, a photo book, because it lasts longer and it travels, and it can be physical and digital forms. And I think for the idea of social object, I think being social is can be isolated. I mean, you're socializing. I mean, if it's a physical object, yes, you can come together. You could talk about it, and then, you know, share that together. And then, but there's another way, another social. It's for for the digital one, it's actually it kind of like a dialogue between yourself. It's like a start of an inner life, because when you're social, usually it's less, it's not, it's about social interaction, dialogue, and getting idea, inspiration from other people, or it's on yourself, you share your thoughts. But for
me
and
the book as well. So
between you and the book and the inner dialogue, it's like you and this invisible person, the author. You want to have this spiritual connections, or like it's more like that. So it's very intimate, and it can be done virtually in a virtual space. So so to me, it's a different kind of social. But yeah.
Okay, I have a question from XY. How will Lightbox be looking to work with international collaborators, artists, etc. for the coming years? I think Lightbox, during the pandemic, you were still working with international. We had the exhibition during the pandemic, and you were looking at working with other countries as well. And you have always worked with many other artists. But this question comes from probably someone in Malaysia. How are you looking to work with international collaborators for coming years with the pandemic in mind?
I mean, we're open to all kinds of ideas, actually. And like you say, during the pandemic, we work with Hong Kong International Photo Fest. We have this online group critique session. So I get to see a lot of work by Hong Kong, like the young photographer in Hong Kong, from Hong Kong, and they're really interesting work. And also there's this online jury sessions where you get held by the Singapore International Photo Fest. I was one of the jury. I get to see a lot of like really great photo book. And also I was and for the digital Lightbox initiative, we were thinking actually if we had the funding, but it was just still very much up in the air. But if we have enough funding, we wanted to do some kind of like researcher in residency. Like we want people to research. We want an outside perspective, basically, for them. We want to invite researchers from outside Taiwan, if they're interested in Taiwanese photography, and they can do a research in here, and that we can work with them. And we want to pair them actually with a local researcher, and then so they can have a dialogue, and then they have someone to talk to share with their research. I mean, all kinds. And then it just there are a lot of possibilities. And then we are also working with the Magnum Foundation at the moment. So we're trying to work on a program together. In near future, which is really exciting. It's about photography and social justice, and because of course photography is a really great outlet for to express your creativity, but traditionally people have been using photography as a weapon against poverty, social injustice, and or to give voice to the voiceless. And so, I mean, there also very important aspect of photography, what people could do with photography. So we're working with Megan Foundation with that. So stay tuned. We will come up with something.
Oh.
Yeah.
If there are any more questions, please just send them in. I think we're almost out of time. And I'd like to thank all of you again for actually joining us. It's a Saturday night, so I'm sure photographers who are lone rangers wouldn't have a social life. So yeah, she should be here. Thank you so much for joining us, and Yanting, really great to see you again. I wish you all the best in your fellowship.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for moderating the talk, and thank you everyone attending the talk, and thank you so much. And once again, thank you for all the support, for everyone's support at Lightbox, for the library. You're on my mind, and we'll live up to your support. And we're still on the road. We'll keep it going.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.